It's pretty safe to say that the look of Superman's costume goes down as one of the most iconic pieces of pop culture imagery. Right up there with the Mickey Mouse ears.
Oh boy!
I mean, the combination of blue, red, and a sprinkle of yellow is just so easy on the eyes. And clearly his look has had a very big impact on me. Very big. And without a doubt, there has been a massive evolution with the look of his costumes throughout his live action film and television run, starting in the 1940s and continuing to this very day. And with the way costuming technology has evolved, costume designers and artisans are really upping their game with today's modern take on the Man of Steel. What's happening, my fellow geeks and geekettes? Welcome to a brand new episode of Cosplay Chris, and today we're going to be going through the evolution of Superman's costumes from the live action TV shows and films. Stay tuned. Now, from sloppy Joe looking bodysuits to high-end textured fabrics, the super suits are all unique in their own way. Now keep in mind, we're going to be covering full suits from the live action films and TV shows. So with that being said, I need to give an honorable mention to Tom Welling, who wore part of the Superman Returns upper suit in the TV series Smallville. Now, even though it's just a cheeky little glimpse of him in part of the suit, he still looks pretty badass. Kirk Alyn goes down as being the first actor to play Superman in live action. Now, Alyn first played the Man of Steel in the 1948 theatrical serial simply titled Superman. He then returned for a 1950 follow-up serial called Atom Man vs. Superman. And Alyn also got a minor tribute in the Richard Donner 1978 film. Now, this is the first cab off the rank in terms of live action Superman costumes, and honestly, it's not that bad for a first attempt. And looking at some of the base parts of the suit, it's almost like a sloppy Joe, just the way it loosely hangs off in terms of the cuffs and the sleeves and stuff like that. But the cape placement is pretty interesting, and I dig it. It almost has this royal-esque feel to it, and looking at photos of the screen-used costumes today, you can see how much the color has faded. And you know, this is from whether it's been exposed to sunlight and natural light for long periods of time, or because of the fabrics being dyed and the dyes fading out over the years as time went on. Nonetheless, this is a pretty fitting, so to speak, first attempt at a live action Superman costume. George Reeves' turn as Superman began with the theatrical film Superman and the Mole Man, released in 1951. Now, the film functioned as a promotional pilot for a Superman TV series starring Reeves titled Adventures of Superman. This premiered in 1952 and ran until 1958, producing 6 seasons and 104 episodes in total. That's amazing for back then. Reeves sadly died in 1959 at the age of 45, but his legacy of Superman definitely holds up to this day. Reeves' story was actually chronicled in the movie Hollywoodland, where he was played by none other than Batfleck himself, Ben Affleck. How cool is that? You have an actor that's technically played Batman and Superman. Now, this is where the costumers were starting to hone in on the classic look of the suit, with it hugging the body of Reeves a lot more tighter than Kirk Alyn's loose-fitting bodysuit. Now, along with Kirk Alyn's, Reeves' costume also featured a high-waisted tunic that kind of gave it like a strongman aesthetic, which was the style at the time. Reeves' suit consisted of a two-piece bodysuit with trunks, a belt, a cape, and boots. The S logo was separate patterns placed on top of one another and sewn together. And he definitely filled out the suit and had that essence of old school strongman strength to him. The look and aesthetic of Reeves in the costume definitely paved the way for what was to come next. Christopher Reeve is the actor who played Superman in Richard Donner's iconic 1978 film titled Superman. He reprised the role in 1980's Superman 2, 1983 Superman 3, and 1987 Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. We don't talk about that one. And what can I say about Christopher Reeve's Superman costume that hasn't already been said? It's fucking perfect. To me, in my humble opinion, this is where the costume designers got the colors, the proportions right, and that was thanks in turn to their lead actor. Packing on a mass amount of muscle onto his 6'4" frame, Reeves filled the suit out so damn well. The costumes throughout the 4 films that Reeves starred in were designed pretty much the same overall, with an upper and lower bodysuit accompanied by a pair of trunks, a belt, boots, and of course, that beautiful cape. Now, the cape was actually fastened at the back via eyelets, and that was also strapped under Reeves's armpits. So that way, there was no way of the cape coming loose because it gives the illusion that it's just tucked under the bodysuit. But this way, strapping it under the arms and clipping it at the back ensures that it's not going to go anywhere. One thing I've always admired with Christopher Reeve's suits is the S symbol. Now, the way they did it was sewing separate pieces together. It's not patterns on top of one another. They're actually sewn together when you've got the red and yellow. If you have a look at the back of one of the screen used suits here, you can see how intricate the work is. Now, one of the suits that Reeves wore, I think it's an amalgamation of a few suits from different Superman films, sold at auction recently for just over $500,000. And it's still in amazing condition. There is a video on Adam Savage's Tested, I'll leave the link down below, with beautiful close-ups of the suit. Definitely go check it out. And it's quite amazing to see the detail that the London-based costumers put into, my opinion, the greatest representation of Superman's costumes on screen. But honestly, they all bring something unique to the table. But like I said, I think they just got the color hues, the aesthetic, just the overall design down pat. And also it helps when you've got a great lead actor as Superman. Superboy was a TV show that ran in syndication for 4 seasons from 1988 to 1992. Now, the series was kind of a dry run for Smallville, focusing as it does on a younger version of Superman. Now, John Haynes Newton played the lead during season 1, but was recast with Gerard Christopher for seasons 2 to 4 as producers weren't exactly happy with Newton's performance. Neither of the actors who played Superman really went on to do much in terms of acting, but it's pretty safe to say that the costumes worn by Christopher Reeve had a massive impact on the look of the screen-used Superboy costumes. And there's really nothing new to say because they actually use pieces of Christopher Reeve's screen-used costumes because they're working on a TV budget. They recycled some of the screen-used costumes from the Superman films. And that's why they look so similar. Granted, it looks like they've got a brand new bodysuit, trunks and all that to fit the 2 lead actors, but for the most part, they were reusing capes, boots, belts and stuff like that, just accessories. I've got to say, I do love the way the fabric hugs these 2 actors. There definitely is some good muscle definition going on there. It also helps that those 2 lead actors were in phenomenal shape. In 1993, Dean Cain was cast as Superman on the popular ABC TV series Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, opposite Terry Hatcher's Lois Lane. Cain starred as Clark Kent for 4 seasons, up until the show was canned in 1997, annoyingly ending an unresolved plot thread. Now, this show in particular was my favorite when it was airing. I was at that perfect age, but what always stood out to me was that glorious costume that Dean Cain wore. I adored this suit in the series. Even if it did change here and there, there's something so charming about the bright satin look of the blues, the reds. It's almost swashbuckling in a way. Now, the cape had some changes made to it, and one certain design is a nice throwback to the Kirk Allen cape design, where it's just the panel sitting on top of the bodysuit as opposed to being tucked under. Cain didn't wear a muscle suit for this series. He was a pretty fit guy to begin with, but I think there are some points where some subtle padding here and there would have brought the aesthetic of the suit up a few notches. And take, for example, how good one of his suits look on a muscled up mannequin when it was on display at a Comic-Con. It just really brings that aesthetic home. Now, nonetheless, Dean Cain's Superman costume is a welcome addition to the lineup of super suits, and we even get a cheeky look at him in the black regeneration suit in the series, minus the mullet. A guy can dream. Now, I want to give an honorable mention to the failed film Superman Lives that was going to be directed by Tim Burton and starring the crazy bastard himself, Nicolas Cage, as the Man of Steel. Here are some photos of Nicolas Cage in his test outfits for Superman. There was obviously the stock standard Superman suit, and he was adorned with a glorious dirty mullet wig. There was also regeneration suits, like hibernation suits, some beautiful costuming going on here. And Jose Fernandez, now of Ironhead Studios fame, had a hand in making these costumes back when he was a freelance artist. Now, we all know the story with Superman Lives. The film unfortunately never came to fruition. Tim Burton was going to direct it. It was going to be dark, different, and Nicolas Cage was going to play the Man of Steel. But looking at this costume, it's very reminiscent of the 90s Batman suits. It's got that type of neoprene undersuit with foam latex muscles glued on top of it, sealed up with some beautiful paintwork. And I do dig the overall aesthetic and look. I just feel for the Man of Steel, it's too rubbery, whereas we're so used to fabric and cloth adorning his muscular frame. It just makes you wonder, if that film came out, how it would have been received if Nick Cage had have gone on to play Superman many more times, and that would have meant more costumes. Brandon Routh played the Man of Steel in director Bryan Singer's 2006 blockbuster Superman Returns, which flopped financially thanks to a gigantic production budget. And now Superman Returns actually served as a sequel to the Reeves films and isn't most fans' favorite Superman movie, but Routh's portrayal did earn him a following, and now a lot of fans are happy to see him return for Crisis on Infinite Earths. Fun fact, my dad was actually an extra in Superman Returns. They shot here in Sydney, and that scene where Parker Posey is in that runaway car, that was filmed in Martin Place in the CBD of Sydney. Dad was an extra, adorned with a trench coat and whatnot. Dad didn't make the final cut of the film, but if you look at this behind the scenes photo, that is my dad's head poking up, having a look at Brandon Routh and Parker Posey. I mean, look, he technically made it. So looking at his costume, we've now entered the age of textured fabrics and capes, geeks and geekettes. And when Brandon Routh was cast as the Man of Steel, he set out to get as big as he possibly could, and he definitely fills out the suit. But keep in mind, he also does sport a subtle muscle suit under his Superman suit. This is because no matter how big you get, once fabric hugs the body, it softens it. Nonetheless, these little enhancements really add to his incredibly fit physique, and this time around the bodysuit features subtle textures all over it, as well as a leather-inspired dark red cape. Now the closure at the neck is a lot tighter, whilst the chest emblem is cast in some sort of a urethane rubber that features tiny little S's all over it. The belt also features the S emblem, but the boots are something that really stands out to me. These things almost look like red motocross boots that also feature quite a few S symbols all over it, not just on the back but also the soles. It's honestly not my favorite look for Superman, but I totally love the direction they were going in, and plus props to the costume designers and all the artisans involved for trying something different. Takes guts to do that. Now I quickly mentioned Crisis and Infinite Earth at the beginning of this section of the video, and a quick little side note, Brandon Routh did make his return as Superman in Crisis on Infinite Earth, this time around as Kingdom Come Superman, and this is a massive step up in my opinion of how he looked in Superman Returns, and the guy still has it. He looks amazing, and this time around he's adorned with a more fuller muscle suit and a costume that is a gorgeous representation of the Kingdom Come costume. This costume was actually built by Ironhead Studios, so it's cool to see them have their turn having a crack at the Superman suit. From the textured fabric to the contoured chest emblem, it's a very fitting return for an actor that in my opinion was criminally underrated as Superman. So it was very refreshing to see him back, and he looks so happy. Look at him. English actor Henry Cavill debuted as the Man of Steel in 2013's Man of Steel. He then returned for 2016's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and then came back for 2017's Justice League. After much speculation as to whether Cavill would return as a superhero, fans can finally rejoice as he makes a cameo in the DCEU film Black Adam starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Henry Cavill had to keep very quiet about his reappearance until recently, revealing that he shows up in a credit sequence at the end of Black Adam. Hopefully this is the start of his triumphant return as the Man of Steel, but until then, let's geek out over his costumes throughout the years. So this is where the costume designers, the artisans, really up their game. So let's start with the muscle suit, and I'm not going to be posting photos of Henry in his test muscle suit, his test costumes, because at the moment I'm actually appealing with Warner Brothers, who blocked my original video of Henry in his test costumes for Man of Steel. I have no idea why. I was just using photos. They're publicly available, so that's a thing at the moment. So here's a photo of his muscle suit before it was molded, and it was essentially just like a test concept piece. So the idea was to have chrome showing through. He's the Man of Steel. The fabric that they used for his bodysuit was quite thin, and this is why you can see those beautiful chrome muscles showing through. So much so, this is actually the same fabric they used on the Black Panther suits. Again, using beautiful textured fabric. The bodysuit is also adorned with some beautiful urethane trimmings and a lovely looking urethane urethane chest emblem for Man of Steel. A lot more of a darker tone going on, more muted blues and reds. The cape itself looks quite heavy and it has a royal-esque feel to it, and that's what they were going for with this franchise in terms of their iteration of Superman. These suits aren't just for show, these are part of the royalty of Krypton. Cut to Batman v Superman, some of the trimmings have been changed, the muscle suit have been changed and enhanced, but the colors in particular is what really changed. They were going for a more metallic blue and red and a lot more brighter and vibrant. By the time we got to Justice League, that's when the metallic look really came to light, and it was like a high sheen, especially with that chrome muscle suit showing through from under the bodysuit. Now going back to Man of Steel, we actually get a cheeky glimpse of the regeneration black suit that's seen in a dream that Superman has in the film. I really do love the black suit. I'm a sucker for the black regeneration suit. I think it looks badass. Now when it came to Zack Snyder's Justice League, they took existing footage and recolored the suit from the traditional look to the black regeneration suit, because obviously he is resurrected in Zack Snyder's Justice League, and Zack wanted to have the black regeneration suit. Considering this is color corrected, it looks beautiful. They did an amazing job. Now fast forwarding to Henry Cavill's cheeky little cameo at the end of Black Adam. There's speculation as to what suit was used. Is this a new suit? No, it's not. It's a pre-existing suit. I'm pretty sure they've used, in terms of the outer suit, the Man of Steel suit. They've recreated it, they've gone back to the molds, but they've enhanced the color. And this also might be the way they've color corrected it. I would love to see the raw footage of Henry on the soundstage with the green screen, just to see how that suit looks. But they definitely are not using the Man of Steel muscle suit for this shot. They're actually using, from what I can tell, the BVS muscle suits. A lot more enhanced, a lot more jacked. Either way, it's so cool to see him back, and from what I understood, he wanted the Man of Steel suit because that is his favorite look of all of his Superman costumes. Tyler Hoechlin first played Superman on the Arrow vs. Supergirl series, but he then later brought the character over to both The Flash and Arrow as part of the Elseworlds and Crisis on Infinite Earth crossover events. He also appeared in the Legends of Tomorrow and Batwoman as part of the later crossover, but now the Superman actor leads the CW series Superman and Lois that is still going to this very day. Now, like Henry Cavill, Tyler Hoechlin has had a few years in terms of his run as Superman, which is still going to this day, and like Henry Cavill, he's had a few costume changes throughout the years. Starting with his debut in Supergirl Season 2, this is a very interesting interpretation of the suit. Now, keep in mind, you're working with a TV budget, and they have stretched the budget as much as they can in terms of his costumes. They are beautiful representations of the Superman suit, considering they are working with a TV budget. And what I love about this suit is they're daring to be different, especially with that beautiful cape placement with those lovely royal-esque looking buckles on the sides of the bodysuit. The textured fabric, the paneling, the chest emblem, everything is beautiful. The only thing that I think is lacking is the muscular understructure, and that seems to be a reoccurring thing with Tyler's costumes. The outer suit looks beautiful, just something underneath there is lacking, or there's too much muscle sometimes, but we'll get to that. Now, Tyler also sports the black Elseworld suit at one time, but in the story it's technically not his Clark Kent. You know me, Geeks and Geekettes, I love a cheeky black suit. Now, at one point we also get a nice little glimpse of the Max Fleischer inspired suit. Now, this is a flashback in the series where we see Clark starting out as Superman, and they went for the OG look, the Max Fleischer look, and I think that's such a nice little tip of the hat to Max himself. I used to love those cartoons as a kid. I wore those VHSs out like there was no tomorrow, and as soon as I saw the first images of Tyler Hoechlin in that Max Fleischer inspired suit, I got all giddy. Like the little kid in me just burst out and screamed with nerd joy. This now brings us to Superman and Lois, and this is my favorite interpretations of the Superman costume for Tyler's run as Superman so far. The only thing that I think is lacking is that muscle suit, or in this instance, there is too much of a muscle suit going on. You look at the aesthetic of this, it is way too big in terms of Tyler Hoechlin's neck size and his head size, but that outer suit is gorgeous. Again, using textured fabrics, but they're now going for a tighter neck closure, much in vein of Brandon Routh's Superman suit from Superman Returns. There's some beautiful muscle shading on the torso area, and this suit in particular is very reminiscent of the new 52 Superman suits, especially when you look at that belt. Overall, I think Tyler Hoechlin has some phenomenal Superman suits. If they just get that muscle suit right, they've got an absolute banger on their hands. Again, I gotta show this photo. Just look how happy him and Brandon Routh look. They're just like two kids in a candy store. And there you have it, Geeks and Geekettes. That is the evolution of Superman's costumes from the 1940s right up to this present day that continues to happen and evolve. So with that being said, let me know down below your favorite Superman costumes. If I had to pick one, and it's really hard, I'm either tossing up between Christopher Reeve's original Superman outfit from '78 or the BVS suit. And I'm gonna have to go with Christopher Reeve. It's just so classic, iconic. Those blues, those reds are just so easy on the eyes. And plus it's Christopher Reeve, the guy's a legend, he wears that suit well. To me, him and Cavill will always be my Superman. But Christopher Reeve's suit is just chef's kiss. Guys, wherever you are in the world, please have yourselves an absolute cracker of a day. I hope you're well, hope you're happy, be merry, be silly, and until next time, Geeks and Geekettes, please always remember, cosplayers do it best.